Matahia tēnei o tātou huihuinga ma te karekea. E whakatakataka hia te hau ki uru. Kia whakatakataka hia te hau ki te tonga. Kia maa kina ki uta. Kia mea taratara ki tai. Tēnā kai e te hua mō tātou, te tio, te huka, te hauhu. Kia rono tātou. Kia rono tātou I hara mai. Ki tēnei o tātou kaupapa. Te kaupapa I timatahia ia te Puna o Mataatua. Aha koa. Kai kone ke tēnā ropu. A tēnā iwi e whaka kukuhia nā whakaaro I roto I a koutou kia putātu hia nā o tēnā a tātou rangatira e kūmai ne ki te tau tohe kia rau anō ko tēnā ko te Ururoa, Flavell o te Māori, ko tēnā noa, ko Tamati, Coffey, no reipa. Ko rāua ke, e whakakotahi ia tātou I tēnei pō, hea hai kia pātai hia, wā koutou pātai, kia rātou, kia whakahokia mai, wā rātou whakaaro I roto tā rātou hingora. I runga tēnā, mi timatahia tēnei otinga, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko tai mai ke tēnei o tātou tā mātou moko Puna, a Jasmine Pearson. Ko ia ke te tahi kaimahi I te rāwa mo te TV Māori I roto o Aotearoa. Māna e whakamārama hia, hea ke nā neke I nā iane. Kia rono tātā.
Kia ora, Uncle. Thank you. Tēnā koutou e te iwi, nau mai, haere mai, whakaopiti mai ki tō tātou whare whakatena I tēnei pō. He mihi mahana tēnei ki a koutou katoa e te iwi. Thank you all for coming. Let's bring our candidates out, eh? I can see a few red shirts out there tonight. I can see a few black ones too. Te Ururoa Flavell no te Pāti Māori. And the challenger, Tamati Coffey no te Rōpū Reipa. Woohoo! No reira e te iwi, before we get on with the substance of the night, I've been asked to remind you that there are fire exits. One is over there, one is at the back, behind the screen. These beautiful people you see with black te Puna o Mataatua shirts on are your OH&S people. So, whānau, if the alarm goes off, please make your way calmly to the exits and just note where those people are and follow them. I think the gathering point is at the field to the side here. What else have we got? There's only really one rule tonight, whānau, and that is, kau e takahi te mana a tētahi atu, ne? And just on that, I want to mihi to the kaupapa, you know, why we're here tonight. Isn't it fabulous that here in Te Waiariki, we have these two, and you know what, our job is difficult. We have to choose between these two. We have a very high calibre of two very hard-working candidates, and that's why we're here tonight, so they can go head-to-head and you can maybe get a little bit more enlightened on some of the deeper issues, especially some of those affecting us in Whakatane and across the electorate. So the format of tonight is we've pretty much got an hour for the substantial debate. We're going to have a timekeeper. We're not going to be absolutely rigid on it, but it'll be between 1 and 3 minutes, the responses. We're going to kick it off with a warm-up round. During the 1 hour, we're going to be crossing to the floor for some pātai from our whānau. And if we're running on time, we'll try and open it up in the end for about te kau miniti, 10 minutes, so that those of you who have burning questions can possibly get some in as well. And then, of course, Tamati and Ururoa have kindly offered to stay behind and have a kai and a kōrero in the foyer there. So if you're a little bit whakamā to ask some questions, whānau, there's another opportunity to come and bring your issues to these two. Okay, let's get on with it. We're going to start with the warm-up round, 5 questions. The first question, 1 minute each, please, folks. The first question, why should Māori vote for you? Tamati.
Sure. Te mei, 1, 2, 3. Kia ora tātou katoa. Is this going? 1, 2, 3. There we go. Kia ora tātou. Start that minute now.
Ka pai.
Why should people vote for me? Basically, I represent the change that we need in New Zealand. I'm sick of hearing about how many homeless people we have in New Zealand. I'm sick of watching stories on the news where people are sleeping in their cars. I'm sick of watching our statistics not getting any better. When it comes to our health outcomes, Māori are the worst. When it comes to filling up our jails, Māori are the worst. When it comes to dropping out of high school, Māori are the worst. And I'm basically putting my name forward to help fix some of those problems. Before me, aunties and uncles, nannies and koros set it up so that our generation could come through and take over and try and do what we could to be able to help out, and that time has come. So I'm putting out myself, I'm putting my hand up for Labour this year with the hope that we can make some change, some well-needed change that we've, as a country, been looking for far too long.
Tēnā koe, Tamati. Te Ururoa, why should Māori vote for you? Let's have a mic test first, eh?
Check, tahi. Ua. Kia ora tātou katoa. Kia ora tātou mo te wiki o te reo Māori.
Kia ora.
He mihi nei kia tātou katoa. Brian, tēnā koe tuku nei ngā kupu kōrero ki te wāhingaro. Kia tau te manaakitanga ki wānganui a tātou e tēnei pō. Me pēnei rawa te kōrero ko te kaumārua tau au e noho ana hei me mapāre mata mo te Waiariki. Nā rungi te aha, nā rungi te whakaaitanga o tēnei rohe, kia noho au, hei kanohi mo tātou, mo kūtau. E hari te mea kei te pōti koutou mō kuake mo te Ururoa, kei te pōti koutou mō koutou ake, te ao Māori. So I've been 12 years in Parliament. I've been fortunate to have the privilege of representing our rohe. My background has been in teaching and education all my life. Had a job down here at Awanuiarangi and it was very good, so I went home. But I deem it a privilege to represent our people. So what I bring is an element of huge experience, having been in the machine for a long time, but most importantly, an absolute belief that the time is right, and it has always been, since the beginning of the Māori Party, that we should have our own kaupapa Māori Party that represents our interests, uninhibited by anyone else's.
Tēnā koe, 1 minute each for the following questions. If you could implement any policy or program in the first 100 days of the next sitting Parliament, what would it be? Te Ururoa.
Well, ko tā mātou ko te whakapakaria ki te whānau ora. Whānau ora, koera te flagship o te Pāti Māori. So, ever since our beginnings, and I'll admit that whānau ora is not necessarily owned by us, it's not, but we've attempted to utilise whānau ora as the flagship for Te Pāti Māori, and about addressing some of the statistics that Tamati talked about. And it's not all bad. It's not all bad. Actually, there's a heap of places like Te Whare Wānunga Nuiarangi that are doing very well in educating our people. There are businesses in this town that are doing very well, but there are some serious issues that we do have to address. And our recipe for that is to pick up whānau ora and drive it hard. Not only with respect to just the sad, bad and mad that we're often painted as, because actually we are full of potential. We have so much going for us, and actually we have that desire to really reach out to the future and paint our own destiny, not hamstrung by anybody else's kaupapa, but by paint our destiny, shape our own future.
Okay, Tamati, you get a minute too.
Yeah. The flagship policy that Labour's campaigning on this year is all about housing. Our Kiwi Build policy is the policy that's going to ensure that we haven't got the homelessness problem that we've got right now, ensure that our whānau can actually live in their own houses and not be overcrowded, because we Māori, we take our whānau in and before you know it, we've got 11 people in our 2-bedroom house. And so what we're going to do is make sure that the houses are built. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and make sure that we've got a lot of those houses coming down here to the Waiariki. Tauranga's bursting at the seams. Edgecombe needs some houses as well, and so does Whakatane. Rotorua, the only way that we're going to solve our homelessness crisis there is to build more houses. An extension of that is we're going to make sure that our young ones are coming through, because they're our future builders and plumbers and electricians, and we need to make sure that they're straight away into our education system, be it Toi o Homai, be it the University of Waikato, be it wherever, because in 3 years' time, they're going to be the ones that will be taking over and training the next lot of plumbers, builders, electricians.
Kia ora, Tamati. Okay, the last couple of questions. One sentence, please. If you could repeal any law within the first 100 days, what would it be, Tamati?
What? The Te Tere Whenua reforms that are going through right now, which
That's
are a destructive
We'll get to
and
that later.
poisonous cancer. The Te Tere Whenua reforms.
Okay, Ture
Oh,
Whenua, Te Ururoa.
Are we allowed to butt in on this debate?
No,
No,
get your
please just answer the question. If you could repeal any law
Well, then
within
we'll
the first
find out.
100 days, what would it be?
Oranga tamariki.
Oranga tamariki.
Oranga
So,
tamariki,
oranga
I say that,
tamariki
I say
and
that.
Ture Whenua. Ka pai. Moving on, it's the quickfire round, thank you. Okay, next question. If you could be the minister of anything at all, what portfolio would you choose and why? Te Ururoa.
Obviously, te minita mo ngā take Māori, e tūnei au I tēnei wā.
Right.
Minister for Māori Development, and the reason I say that is because while you have education as one portfolio, you go top to bottom, the wonderful thing about Māori development is that you see everything in te ao Māori and able to have influence depending on the relationship with the government. So I've enjoyed the 3 years of being minister. I think there's huge potential still to go. That's why I think that that's a position I'd love to take up
Kia ora, you get a bit of an explanation time too, Tamati.
All right then. Something that I'd really like, which I think that we haven't really done very well, or as well as we could do going forward, is actually tourism. I'm passionate about tourism, and I think that there's an untapped potential, especially for Māori tourism, and especially in the Waiariki. And so as I've been travelling around and talking to people, they're looking for those opportunities to be able to sell our culture to the world, because we have a beautiful culture that you can only find here.
Okay, last question. A simple aye or ka will suffice, thank you. Will you both work together in a confidence and supply arrangement post-election? Tamati.
Aye, if that's the way the cards fall.
We've got an aye on this corner. Te Ururoa.
Aye, if that's the way the cards fall.
We've got 2 ayes, folks. That can only be a good thing for Waiariki. Okay, kua mituki e te rau na whakamahana. Let's get into the topics. Hauora. I want to start with mental health. Here in Whakatane, Voyages provides mental health support to rangatahi. Over 80% of the cases that they deal with are what they call behavioural issues and are not actually clinical mental health issues. Rangatahi are dealing with things like sexual abuse, trauma, violence in the home, and often these coincide with drug and alcohol addiction. The problem under the current modelling is that support for these rangatahi often only becomes available once they reach a point of crisis. My question for both of you is, what are you going to do to help Voyages and youth mental health services like them address this gap in the system? Te Ururoa.
So what we've identified, and I'll just take suicide as one part of that big picture, it's not the whole lot, but just one part, and that is to say that we recognised early on, e nei āhuatanga tōko pākino nei ki te ao Māori, o tira ki te hunga rangatahi. Engari, ka tai anō e tahi ka ki mai, kao, ko ngā hunga pake kia anō hoki. But if the question is about the young people, we've identified
What specifically will the Māori Party do to address that gap?
So we've already looked towards providing some resources out of a rangatahi suicide fund, which is contestable. It is available right now, has been available since we secured it in the budget about a year ago. The resource is contestable because the responses in Whakatane will vary from that in Auckland, which will vary from that in ruatoki. Of course, everybody has their own way of dealing with it, and we must acknowledge that there are different ways. There is no one set solution to deal with those issues. But absolutely more resourcing is needed in this area.
Okay, more resourcing. Tamati.
Yeah, first of all, what we need to do is ensure that the funding for health is what it should be, and as we've calculated it, $2.2 billion has been cut out of the health budget, and that's putting a strain on our doctors, on our nurses, on our counsellors, on everybody that's doing those frontline services. One policy that we're doing in particular that I'm incredibly proud of is that we're going to make sure that there is a health professional in every secondary school in New Zealand, so that if there's a young person out there that needs to talk to somebody, they've got somebody to talk to, and you can intervene early. We're being told by teachers that some have them, some don't. We're going to make sure that every secondary school has it.
So you've both given some quite specific things, but also some broader policy areas there. How are you going to reassure whānau that any program or policy you implement isn't going to be another bureaucratic model that puts pūtea before people? Te Ururoa.
Oh, no, I mean, we've recognised absolutely that, as I said, there are community solutions that are far best built by the community and delivered by the community, not by agencies, accepting that there are health professionals around. But I know that in this town here, we visited a group not long ago in this town who struggled with the fact that actually some of our solutions we have presently, we don't have enough beds, there's not enough resources to be able to give these people a hand. So absolutely believe in the notion that our community should take up the resource and through community providers to be able to implement the programs that are appropriate. Town by town, the approach will be different from place to place.
What are your thoughts on that, Tamati?
Just repeat that question for me one more time, Jasmine.
How are you going to ensure that any program or policy that Labour implements doesn't become another bureaucratic model that puts pūtea before people?
Are you talking about whānau order in particular? Because we can go there.
I'm talking about any government policy, any policy that's implemented.
Sure, thank you. The criticism around whānau order, of course, was that all the money that had been put into it, there's lots of admin that happened up the top, and not much of that money fell down to the people that really needed it at the grassroots level. So what we need to ensure is that the money actually does fall down.
Okay, and we'll get to whānau order just in a little moment. Just sticking to mental health, continuing on, over the last year in Aotearoa, 130 Māori took their own lives. Many of us here tonight have been affected either personally, or we know whānau who have lost someone to suicide. It's a really complex issue, and that's understood on many levels. But I want to know what are you doing in each of your parties to lead an intervention to address this issue?
Yeah.
Tamati.
Well, first of all, we're admitting that in mental health we've currently got a crisis in New Zealand that we need to tackle, and we need to really deal with that. Like I said earlier, we're going to fund health like it should be, and more than that, in the total pūtea that's put aside for health, we're actually going to ring-fence that money just for mental health, because at the moment it's not ring-fenced. And so the people that are needing mental health funds are actually subject to competing with everything else that is in that mental health budget. What we want to do is make sure that there's a ring-fence in place so that that money is safeguarded for the people that need it.
Kia ora Tamati. Te Ururoa, what will the Māori Party do about this issue?
Well, as I said, we've already done something, but what I've learned very much in close friends who've lost relations, and some of them are here tonight. Some of us know people that have been affected by the outcomes of suicide. Number one. Two, I absolutely believe in the notion that kaupapa Māori is a way of dealing with many of the issues that face us across the board, and in particular in this area. That's what health professionals tell me, kaupapa Māori approach. And the second thing, what I see is that we tend to deal with just suicide and the young person that's taken their life, but my experience is actually the effects of suicide are not just at that time and that moment, they are a long way afterwards. The flow-on effects of what happens to parents and otherwise who ask the question why, we have to have whānau order wrap around them to take care of them and help them out to get them to the services that they sadly need. That's my approach to it.
So moving on to while we're on whānau order.
Was there a policy in there?
Was there a policy in there, Te Ururoa?
Well, we're already doing it.
What is it?
What's the policy?
What's the
policy is that it's for whānau order, number one.
So whānau order is the policy? Is that the answer?
Yeah.
Okay. While we're on whānau order, Tamati, Labour last night announced that it would increase funding to whānau order by $20 million over 4 years. Do you think that's enough?
Is it enough? It's never enough. If I have my way, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and try and get in there so that we can triple that and quadruple it. But for now, doubling it is a really big achievement. We believe in Labour. We believe in the whānau order. We believe in the model. We believe that that what's happened is that basically there just hasn't been enough money sitting there for it to be able to get down to whānau that need it. So we're committing to doubling the funding for it, and we're committing to also reviewing the commissioning model just to make sure that that's actually the best possible solution.
Right. So does the Māori caucus think it's enough?
The Māori caucus are very happy with our policy.
Right.
That was ticked off by the Māori caucus.
Just by my calculations, 20 million over 4 years doesn't seem that much different from the last 3 years. We had
Let me help you, Jazz.
$15 million
Let me help you,
increase
Jazz.
in 2015. Te Ururoa, your response to that?
So ever since we've been on the election campaign, Tamati has suggested that they would double, as a public statement, whānau ora money. That would mean $75 million above what we get now. What do we get? We get 5 million, not 75, 5 million per year. That's all that's going to be on top of what is already getting $75 million under our policy. So they're well short. We've already got 450 million since 2010. In the past 3 years, I've secured 100. In the past 3 years, I've secured $110 million for whānau ora, 35 million each year, 12,000 whānau are benefiting, 300 navigators throughout the country. If $5 million is the value that Labour places on upping the game on whānau ora e homa, they're well short. Well short.
I'm sorry, I've got to answer that. You can't.
Sorry. Just a follow-up question there, Te Ururoa. You've said all that, and we've heard your answer, but why isn't whānau ora one of the government's top priorities? It's priorities. It's not on its better public services target, and nor is it the cornerstone of its social investment policy. Don't you think it should be?
I do, and we're working on that. And that's what comes with...
Tamati, what's your response to
let me
that?
ask me the question, let me finish
It's
it.
taken way too long. And can I just say, with some of those,
We'll come back to you. We'll come
with some
back
of those
to you.
numbers that have been bandied
5
around,
years.
with some of those numbers that have been bandied around, he should have actually solved the homelessness crisis in Rotorua. He should have actually built a whole lot of houses around the Waiariki Electorate. But instead, he's saying that we've had all this money, but it's not been coming down. The problems are still there, Minister. So it's broken. It is broken.
Let's go back. One more comment about whānau ora from you, Te Ururoa. 30 seconds, let's go.
Whānau ora does not take in every person in the country, for goodness sake. It's been 5 years only running this course, and it was on the back of Māori dreams to have the money commissioned out to the community to make the decisions. It's 5 years, and we're expected through whānau ora to deal with all the ills of the country. Give me a break. And this is the challenge, Jazz. What we have to do is pull that money.
If you're throwing out the numbers, then you have to be able to back that up.
What we have to do is pull the money from the other agencies that are holding it. And we've already started that because we pulled out 30 million from MSD just recently. So it's happening. And it's going to take time.
Okay, so we all agree it needs more funding, and Labour is in support of whānau ora. Just want to take this moment to remind everyone, kia kaua takahi te mana tētahi atu. Hey, it's awesome. We're having some robust political debate tonight, and I, for one, am certainly quivering in my boots at the moment. But
you're doing great.
Just give everybody a chance to be heard, and bear with me as I, kai te hupe tonu a hau roto I tēnei mahi, no reira. So we are going to go to the floor now for our next question. Before we do that, we've got Kere Matua Kere Akuhata. Ka pai. Before we do that, I just want to acknowledge Matua Joe Harawira, who passed away at the beginning of this year. In 1988, Matua Joe set up SWAP, which was Sawmill Workers Against Poisons. So him and his colleagues, for the better part of 30 years, fought really hard to try and get some justice for ex-sawmill workers who were affected by the deadly poison PCP. As I mentioned, sadly, Koro Joe passed away at the beginning of this year. Engari kei te whawhai tonu rātou. So we're going to go to a question now to the chair of SWAP, to Kere Akuhata. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Are you both familiar with the ACC Act, Accident Compensation Schedule 30, or Act 30, Schedule 2? Okay, my question is this. Many of our SOP whānau have been unable to receive ACC entitlements in healthcare systems because ACC Schedule 2 does not recognise PCP cancer symptoms for health claims. They do not agree that the whānau should be entitled. Do you agree that the whānau should be entitled to ACC if they were affected working at the sawmill, and what will you do about it?
Kia ora, Mataatua. Kei te mārama te pātai. So, under ACC, yep, has everyone got the question?
Pretty much you can.
Ka pai. Tamati.
First of all, thank you for your question, and also to Joe Harawira and all of those that heartily fought since the, what did you say, 1988, to try and get some justice around this issue. This is a new thing for me to come into. I haven't been the MP here for a little while, so I'd be interested in sitting down and having a kōrero with you, Kere, and understanding exactly what the issue is. What I can promise you, though, is under an incoming Labour government, and if I've got the privilege to be your MP for the Waiariki, I will walk hand in hand with you, and I will advocate for you and for SWAP until we get some justice around this issue. I promise you that.
Tēnā koe Tamati, te Ururoa.
So I have been associated with this issue, and kere, tēnā koe mō tērā pātai, me te whakaaro no ki mō te korauana. Koia te tangata ko korua tai, hāpai tēnei kaupapa. So I had my hand over, it was about probably 5 or 6 years ago, and I understood actually that notion had been accepted already. Why? Because he had basically championed it all the way through. I had worked with him and you fellows to try and get that through to the door to the very ministers. But honestly, right here, as I stand here right now, I understood that had already been taken care of, and that there had been acceptance that there may well be issues for those tamariki, the mokopuna of those associated with SWAP, that could be dealt with. I understood it was dealt with. If it's not, I'm happy to take it up again.
Tēnā koe te Ururoa. Do you have another question, Mataatua?
Yes, I do. Another problem with ACC is that it's not recognised that the intergenerational effects on our uri, it could be potentially 7 generations. So potentially they could have deformities in such, from these dioxins, and PCP is just a word. Yep. It's the dioxins that do the damage. So how would you support us in recognising that intergenerational effects to not only the sawmill worker, but also the people that are living next to the contaminated sites, 36 contaminated sites in Whakatane. I don't know how many in Rotorua, Tamati, but they were using 4 to 5 times more solutions than we have. So.
Kia ora, Mataatua.
Yeah, it is shocking. Oh, sorry, can I jump in? It is shocking. In fact, just on the ride here, me and one of the nannies in our koro, we were talking about how back in the day, all of that used to get washed down the puarenga, and that breaks our heart, being from Waka. I can only reiterate what I've just said to you, that I think that it is an injustice, and I'm happy to walk next to you to try and find some justice around this issue.
Well, I've already said that was, I understood, as always Joe's claim, that the tamariki and the uri should be able to have access to help, that SWAP had actually made some gains by getting medical evidence together and presented that to the minister. That was the last I heard of it, and assumed that it had been dealt with, bearing in mind that I hadn't heard back from Joe about what happened about that kōrero. But as I say, I'm happy to take that up again, because I think it is an injustice that has not been taken care of. But I accept that it is an issue, has been an issue, and it will continue to be an issue alongside all the issues that were raised by SWAP. I can take up one, just highlight one issue, and that is there is some help available, albeit under another kaupapa through TPK. I know that one of the crow out in Poroporo, in terms of just simple things that we don't think about, going for a shower, where previously they had a bath and slip over in the bath and all that sort of stuff. those things are available right now to give a hand for some, not all, but certainly some that are suffering from those sorts of issues, and happy to take that up after this.
Matua, kei te pai e rā whakautu ki a koe? We can always follow up with that after too. Kia ora Matua. Moving on to our next section, Tamati, Labour came out and matched National in its commitment to lift 100,000 children out of poverty within the first term. How is Labour going to achieve this?
That's a really good question, Jasmine. I know that we as a party, I mean, Jacinda herself is committed to actually child poverty as the issue that she wants to address in her time as a Prime Minister. What we want to do is actually make sure that the basics are there. So when it comes to housing, health and education, I think that with those three things wrapped around, we can start to look to relieve that. I know that doctors, one of the head paediatricians over in Ururoa at the hospital, he says to me, when you guys as the government fix up the houses, then you'll start seeing improvements in child health. He said fix up the houses first, get our people into their houses, make sure they're insulated, make sure they've got a fixed heating source in there and not one of those little $20 heaters from the warehouse, an actual fixed heating source in there, and then you'll start seeing a change in child's health.
Okay, so whare, ne? Te Ururoa, my question for you is, since the Māori Party set up a ministerial group on poverty 2 terms ago, poverty has actually increased amongst Māori. What's your response to that?
The response is that it's not good enough, and the response is that the relationship, well, we have some targets. We've got to set some targets to be able to deliver on, and that's the first thing. Second thing is that there are policy gains that you can move on and change according to the circumstances. So we've got one of making cost of living adjustments for all benefits or introducing living wage. But the biggest change I think that we have as a party, just 2 of us, is the relationship accord that we have with the governing body, which allows us to have our hand over the budget, the budget changes. So just 1 year ago, the government, the national government, and prior to that, the Labour government had never adjusted any benefits to those who are beneficiaries for 42 years. Our involvement in the committee that you just talked about, our involvement in the... We
are talking about the last 2 terms, therefore.
Yeah, in the last 2 terms, I just said...
In relation to your ministerial group on poverty.
Yeah, and so what's happened is that we have listed things like, through that ministerial committee, 1, influence more money to beneficiaries, 2, change the tax threshold in this recent budget, 3, giving out more money to those who are seeking money through for accommodation supplement, 4, raising the age for kids to go to the doctor from 6 to 13. That's what we do.
One of the main issues around this subject, the subject of poverty, is that neither Labour nor National-led governments have committed to defining it. Will each of your parties do that?
To set targets on poverty?
To actually defining what it is.
Yeah, to the point where we've actually, and again, it's another Jacinda initiative, actually said that when we pass the budget every year under a Labour government, we're also going to have another measure in there, which is going to determine how impacting, how much of a difference we're making to child poverty. And that's at the nth degree. When you're actually talking about the budget, she's talking about putting another filter over that to say, are we reducing child poverty with all of these initiatives that we're going to be passing in the budget?
So is Labour currently defining it?
That's what it is. That's what, exactly what it looks like? No. We have to get into Parliament and then we'll sort that out. But we've committed to that.
What about you, Te Ururoa?
Say what? Ka te pātano?
Will your party commit to defining the parameters? What is poverty?
What we will do is set a target, and we have done in this policy a statement around eliminating poverty in Aotearoa by 2025. Of course, that relies on us with a working relationship with the major government, because that's the only way that we're going to get that through. Secondly, what we've said is that we should look towards a government equity accord, which basically holds government ministries to account for performances on dealing with issues of poverty. And what would happen...
So that's a yes?
Yeah.
Ka pai. Okay, next
He didn't say
question.
yes.
Kia ora, Matua. Now, on the subject of housing there, Tamati, you know, often whānau in poverty are living in substandard houses. Now, there's been some insulation programs. There's been even situations where heat pumps get put into homes. My question for you, Te Ururoa, is how successful are these programs if whānau are still not putting on their heaters because they can't afford to pay the power bill?
So, first thing is that issues of housing haven't just come around, sort of around the corner just recently. They've been with us for a while. The second thing is...
They've been exacerbated by the sale of state houses.
Oh, so I'll go there straight away. So what's happened is that we, the Māori Party, agreed to the notion of state houses. Why? Because the state has been the worst slumlord in this country ever of looking after the people who are in the state houses. And let's get the facts straight. It's only 3% of the stock, 8,000 houses over 3 years. Some in Auckland, some around the rest of the country. And here's the biggest thing that Labour have not said to the whole country, that the conditions that are available for people to move into those state houses are no different had they been done by the state, except that private, in fact, iwi want to move into the space, like like Tainui, and actually I heard the possibility of Ngāti Awa moving into the space to deliver better housing outcomes for their people. So that's a myth that we shouldn't be into that. But the things
Tamati,
around...
what's your response to that?
3% of housing stock. It's easy to say, oh, but they just make up 3% of housing stock. Can you imagine what kind of a difference that would make to a community like Edgecombe to actually have some of those houses in there, to communities like Tauranga that are bursting at the seams, and unfortunately it's all of these foreign speculators that are moving into our property market and they're buying up our houses. What we will do in our first 100 days, I'll tell you, Jasmine, is that we will ban foreign speculators so that it's Kiwis that are able to buy our houses. That's one of the reasons we've got such a chokehold on our housing situation.
Okay, one more writer reply to Ururoa.
No. We said...
Quickly, please.
Well, I'm saying that, just to say that everybody that's going to move in to take over state housing as foreign investors is rubbish, because iwi want to be a part of that game. Why? Because they believe that they can do it better, and they must be community housing providers, for goodness sake. So the notion that somebody comes from overseas and takes it all up is not right.
Okay, one of the other issues under this kaupapa is that, shamefully, we have the highest rate of homelessness in the OECD, that is Aotearoa, over 40,000 people. What will each of your parties do immediately to provide kai and beds for people who are in the most need? Te Ururoa.
So we've already, through the initiative through the Māori Housing Network and TPK and working with the other departments, set up opportunities to deal across the board, because there's no one shoe fits all size. So we've got to deal with the here and the now. The emergency, those who are in emergency, that need emergency housing. No, it is not right that people live in cars with tamariki and mokopuna. That's not right. So we have to deal with emergency housing, and we have emergency providers around the country who are stepping up to take their part. Second thing is we must make sure that the state, through those agencies such as MST, actually react to the needs of the community. Because the feedback I get across the board is a lot of our people do not go to those state agencies. Why? Because they either have been put off by their attitude, put off by the product that they've been given, or actually on the opposite side of the coin, a whakama about their situation. And so that's not good. And that's why Te Puia has been a good model to start in that regard.
It's been a desperation model. That's what's happened at Te Puia.
Tamati, your response, please.
Te Puia is a desperate situation. Unfortunately, they were the ones that stepped up, and kudos for them for doing it. But actually, we shouldn't be in that situation where we're putting up our homeless people in marae. Can I just also point out the Māori Housing Network that the Minister talks about got 11 houses out of the $120 million that was budgeted for it. That's embarrassing, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen like that.
Yeah, and
can I also say that putting people into motels and the government investing in motels, we've currently bought 4 motels, they're buying another 2. That's not a housing strategy. That is not a housing strategy. Our whānau do not want to be in motels. We need to deal with emergency housing, and through Labour we will.
And that's true. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate that people sleep in cars. Is it better that our people sleep in cars or have a bed for the night in a hotel? I ask you, one or the other.
We're spending $120,000 a day on whānau in motels.
No. Is it better to sleep in cars?
$120,000 a day.
Give them a roof over their heads. That's what they want.
Yeah, but you've sold them off. You sold off the state houses so they haven't got a roof over their head. You supported the national government in selling them off.
Ka pai, kia ora kōrua. Still on housing, affordable housing. Housing in New Zealand is largely unaffordable for the average working class family and the middle class family. How will each of your parties help whānau Māori to access affordable housing options? Tamati.
Well, first of all, we need to build affordable houses. And the first thing that the government's doing is they're building all of these sections and these
How's
developments.
Labor gonna do that?
But they're not actually affordable. Part of a huge part of our Kiwi Build policy is those 100,000 houses that we're building are going to be affordable houses.
Right,
Full
so
stop.
Kiwi Build, 100,000 homes.
Kiwi Build,
Ururoa.
say it again, 100,000 affordable homes.
What's your response to that?
That's interesting. That's interesting because Labor talking up a desire to help out in the housing. Why did Labor not support Ngāti Paoa when they were offering 450 houses? Why didn't they support them?
Kei te kotiti.
Why didn't they support them? That's the question.
Ko te pātai ke, what will the Māori Party do?
We'll support, what we'll do is we'll support Ngāti Paoa to build their houses
And
to
that's
allow
good
our
for Ngāti
people.
Paoa. What about Ngāti Awa? What
Okay,
about Te
Ngāti
Awa?
Paoa
What
and
about
Ngāti Awa.
Tauranga Moana? What about Whakatūhia?
We will.
What about Ngāti
Absolutely, we'll
Tūwharatua?
support
Two
them.
tribes are gonna
We'll
do very
support
well
them.
out of this.
We'll absolutely support iwi. Unlike the Labour Party who doesn't want to do that. They don't want to do
Kia ora,
that.
kia ora,
Our
taiwa,
people
can't say
will
that.
support. That's right.
Taiwa,
Rukahu.
thank you.
Rukahu.
Next question.
Rukahu.
Next question. Okay. Ka pai. Currently, the loan-to-value ratio is set at 20%, which is unobtainable for most of our whānau. Even with KiwiSaver grants, living supplements, welcome home loans, wage adjustments, whānau still don't even come close. In order for there to be a boost in Māori home ownership, whānau need low deposit, incremental payment schemes, or something similar to get a house in their own rohe. Do you agree? Te Ururoa.
Yes, I do. I believe that our people should move back to their homes if it's possible. The whole notion of papakainga housing is hugely important for us, and we managed to secure in the last budget I think it was $9 billion.
So you do
$9
agree?
million
Tautoko?
$9 million to allow open up pathways through ara mauwhare to trial ways such as dual equity. To be able to move into rent-to-buy schemes and so on, because again, there's no one fixed solution at all. It's trying to offer up options like the old Māori Affairs loans. We want to bring those back because they work for our people.
Kia ora, Tamati, your
Yeah.
response to that?
Yep. First of all, we need to lift the wages in New Zealand because wages aren't keeping up. Every time that there's another article in the newspaper that says...
But even with wages lifting, it's still not enough. That's what we're saying.
No, no, I agree with you. It's still not enough. And it's ludicrous that in New Zealand, in Auckland, it's $1 million for a house. Nobody's got that kind of money to be able to save up for a deposit. So, yeah, it's hell tricky. Can we come up with some solutions? Yeah. This year, we're looking to bring in 12 Māori MPs into Labour in the same wave. And you can better believe that we're all connected into our communities and we're all looking for opportunities for our whānau to be able to build on their whānau lands.
Okay. Kia ora kōrua. Kei te whakawhiti atu tātou e nānei ki te floor again. So our next question, Whaia Winnie Geddes. Have we got Whaia Winnie there? Kia ora.
Ai, kia ora kōrua. Nā mihi mahana kia kōrua. E te awhi mo te Edgecombe floods. Just like to let you know that they both came in and volunteered. Tamati came in with his Labour Māori caucus and Te Ururoa with the Māori Party. Now, okay, in the recent response, Tangata Whenua provided marae for accommodation and donated goods and furniture, kai, a supportive whānau network, and of course a base for the volunteer army that cleaned up Edgecombe in 11 days. Despite its continuance in the recovery process, Whakatane District Council, Recovery Centre, government agencies and Regional Council are finding it difficult to engage with Ngāwa, Tangata Whenua and Edgecombe to continue in that recovery process. So, the question is, for both of you, if you make it to government, whether coalition or the government, how are you going to ensure Tangata Whenua are consulted throughout the whole civil defence emergency response process to recovery and to facilitate when working with whānau? Kia ora.
Kia ora Whaia. Kei te marama te pātai?
Right.
Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. So I acknowledge the work that was done by all of the helpers out at Edgecombe. When I went out there with the Māori wardens and with all the volunteers, and even before that actually, it was clear from the intelligence that I was getting from TPK that our people were being cut out as a part of the response. That was clear because the Mayor, by his own admission, appeared in Kawerau at the hall and got shouted down because there was no tikanga Māori associated with following it through. Since that time, I went back to Parliament and I picked it up. I accepted that there were some issues on the back of Kaikoura, on the back of Whanganui, on the back of Edgecombe. It was clear that our people are not a part of the scenario. So I've engaged firstly with the Minister to tell him that Māori must be a part of the response strategies into the future, number one. And number two, I presented a submission to the committee that has been set up on the back of our recommendations to consider the part to be played by tangata whenua across the board, including wardens, including TPK, including whānau ora, to ensure that there is a Māori presence across every civil emergency that we have into the future. The downside is that that committee will not report back into after the election, and then the recommendations will go from there. So that's what I've attempted to do on the back of what you fellows were doing.
Tamati.
Yeah, I think it was awesome to have seen the response. We went to Kawerau to go and see the blanket bank that was running down the back of the wharekai there, and the operation that was going on. It was slick as. Why? Because we as Māori, we know how to take care of people, and lots of people all at the same time, which is why Māori and civil defence need to be working this out together. That was my one learning from Edgecombe. When it happened, and I was there on the ground, and I saw how iwi were being treated by civil defence, yes, there was a kind of a will to work together, but there's a whole lot more work to do. And actually, when I was here at the home show a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with civil defence. They had a stall out the front, and I said to them, where does marae fit into your civil defence plan? They said, oh, well, yes, the review's coming out soon, and we hope that we can actually tackle something like that. But as I say, as hopefully the new incoming Labour government, I'll work with our Minister of Civil Defence to make sure that the learnings from Edgecombe aren't going to waste. Ka pai.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe whaia, does that answer your question? He pātai anō?
Aye. Aye. Kia ora. Just to go a bit further on that, I did submit something to the ministerial review on how tangata whenua are involved, and I was asking to include it in legislation of the Civil Defence Emergency Management System, because it's not there, it doesn't exist.
Yep.
And depending on whose government is there, and I've heard it's up to that new government to put that through to select committee. I'd like to know if you can ensure that might happen.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kia ora.
Tā pai. Kia ora whaia. Kai te wera hoki ni. Te nīti hoki o ngā kaitōranga pū nei. O mai te paki. Okay, employment. Massive issue, especially in Murupara and Kawerau. If elected, what are each of your parties going to do to provide meaningful intervention in these areas? Tamati.
Into unemployment, did you say?
Unemployment.
Right. So first of all, we need jobs. We need jobs out in the regions, and that's, by our very name, we are Labour. We are all about people getting out there and contributing to our workforce. So we've got plans around providing more jobs to help people to have a bit more meaning in their life. One thing that we've done is we've gone and removed the barrier of money towards tertiary education. What that means is that people that have found themselves unemployed, what we're saying is that, you know what, we're going to take it away so that if you want to go and study at Toiho Mai, if you want to go and study at Te Whare Wānanga or Awanuiarangi, then that's okay and you don't have to pay. You're going to get 3 years of free tertiary education under a Labour government, and it's not hard to understand because we used to do that in New Zealand, but it got taken away. And we think that in this changing world of work that we are currently in, where 1 minute you've got a job and then the next minute you're being made redundant, we need to be able to free up that opportunity of tertiary education for people to be able to get themselves back on the ladder and back up for retraining. We've also got a policy around dole for apprenticeships. So basically, taking some of our people that have found themselves on the dole for way too long and looking for jobs, we're going to incentivise employers to be able to take them on. Because it's a good thing for an employer, it's a wee bit of a risky thing too, but if you're getting the equivalent of that person's dole money, I was speaking to somebody today at the Awhina school in Rotorua, and she said, I would love just a couple more people to help me out, a couple more hands. Under our dole for apprenticeship scheme, she will.
Okay, so mātauranga and apprenticeships. Te Ururoa.
Well, let's not be fooled that actually it was the Labour Party agenda of privatisation that brought down a heap of places like Murupara, like Minganui. That's number one. Number two, if anybody believes that just tertiary education is the pathway into the future, then I suggest that that's just one part of it. The other part is actually at a little bit more basic level, that there is a big cohort, Jazz, of 18 to 26, 28 people that are out of employment, education and training. They're called NEETs now. There's a huge number of them. Most of them are Māori, located in the Bay of Plenty as well as in the north. Our response to that is Passport for Life. And at the heart of Passport for Life is, number one, you've got to have a driver's licence. It's suggested that those who have driver's licences are able to get employment. That's the fact. Number two, the part of that, will there be other documents that go with that? That is a birth certificate. That is a tax form. That is a bank account. That is a passport, actually. But the number one thing is a driver's licence. You get a driver's licence, you get away from the notion of, number one, being caught with driving your car without a licence. Two, not paying your fine. Three, ending up and going in front of the court and down to that vicious circle, te korokoro, te para, te kororo iana. Noeira, ko tāmata, ko te kia mo tērā reenga, Passport for Life is the way.
So why haven't the programs worked so far, in your opinion? You've been sitting at the table for a few years now.
Say that again?
Why haven't the programs worked so far? You've been sitting at the table for a little while now.
Some of them have worked, that's true. And the thing that we're learning very much more about is we must take a kaupapa Māori approach to dealing with the situation that our people face. So we talked about earlier about mental health. In terms of, let's just take justice system. Far too many of our people in prisons. What is the
But do you
way out of
agree
that?
that the programs so far have not been working?
I'd agree that we need to focus more and get right down to the nitty-gritty of our people. And what is the issue? We've found out the issue. One of those issues happens to be a driver's license. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
And actually, and the issue of pay, of course, the whole notion about having a living wage is important, because it's not just having money in the pocket, because it may not be enough to survive. We're promoters of a living wage, which is $20.20.
Okay, one more response. Tamati, what's your response to that?
I live and breathe the living wage. So at our little bar in Rotorua, our glassy that goes around and wipes the tables and clears the ashtrays, that person gets $20.20 an hour. And therefore, what we're doing is contributing to their lifestyle, so they actually get to live a decent life. Because, as I said before, the living costs are going up, and unfortunately, the pay isn't going up. But can I just make one more point about employment? It's around forestry. And now forestry, and I'll
Actually, I've got a question on that next, but...
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Let me leave that for your question then.
Okay, well, on forestry, this is an issue that's pertinent to us here. Despite changes in the health and safety laws, it's still the most dangerous vocation for young people. We're losing our young people to forestry. What are you guys going to do about it? What would Labour do about it?
Yeah, we've got to really tighten up on our health and safety. The legislation that was passed recently was okay. I think it left a few people out, farmers. But actually, in the forestry industry, we are losing people. But do you know what? Labour heartily believes in the rights of workers. There is no way that we would let any more people die, and we will put in a decent plan when we're in government.
Would you support a public inquiry into the forestry sector?
Ooh. I need to talk to our spokesperson for that, Stuart Nash.
So it hasn't come up in your discussions?
Around what?
A public inquiry into the forestry sector.
We haven't talked about that. What we have talked about, though, is actually pouring money into forestry to bring back the New Zealand Forestry Service, to actually get a strategic plan around forestry, to make sure that our logs are processed here, because they're not processed here. We're losing out on jobs, and we need to have those jobs here, because that's our wood.
Te Ururoa, would you support a public inquiry into the forestry sector?
Well, actually, we did push for that a couple of years ago when we had that big string of deaths, and it didn't quite get there. But what we did do, through the efforts of people like the efforts of people like Lee Edmonds in Rotorua, who brought with his, and who lost his own son against this, was to take it down on the back of the hikoi to the minister and push very hard to adjust the work that WorkSafe New Zealand has done. They've done a great job. I've been out to with the forestry crews in Murupara. I've actually been there to see what they do, and it's a lot better. But I mean, one loss is not good enough. We've got to do better. And I would, if it gets to that point again, we have brought the numbers down, not good enough. But if it got to the point where we were up and around the 10, 12, because that's where it was before, I'd absolutely support an inquiry for us to adjust those work-safe practices to ensure that there were no more lives lost.
Kia ora kōrua. Okay, moving on to our next scope up, freshwater. Te Ururoa, what's your position on freshwater
Here we go.
ownership?
Yeah, this is good. This is good. So the Māori Party accepts that the issue of freshwater was placed by our iwi, by Māoridom, in front of the Waitangi Tribunal, an august body that looks at issues such as this. They proclaimed that Māori have ownership rights already. They proclaimed that. Our job is to support that, and that is the stand of the Māori Party.
So Māori own freshwater.
Well, they have rights, yes.
Tamati, what's your view on that?
We're saying that this hasn't been sorted out by the Māori Party or the National Party or the Māori National Party. So what we're pledging to do is make sure that when we are in government, we've actually got around the table and we sort this out, because it's been an issue that's been going on for way too long.
What's your position on it? What's your position on
Our
it?
position is that we as New Zealanders all have a right to our
Everybody
So
has
water.
everyone
That's right.
owns the
All
water.
have a right to water, but remember, I'm Māori first and foremost,
Oh,
and I know
come
that we
on.
have
Oh,
a
come on,
relationship
come on,
to
come
our
on.
water. It is integral, it is a food source,
Say that
it is
Māori
a
has
taonga.
rights.
Okay,
Say
taiwa,
Māori
taiwa.
own the water. Say Māori own the water.
So you,
Māori own the water.
Thank you
So
very
do
much.
I, so does
That's
she,
what we needed.
so does my
That's
Pākehā
what we
mate down
needed.
here in the front.
Okay.
That's what we needed.
So does
Is that a
everybody in this
position?
audience.
That is contradiction. That is a contradiction, Jazz. That is a contradiction to policy, because Labour says everybody owns water, just like the foreshore and seabed, and we know what happened there.
Oh, here we go again.
We know what happened
Here
there.
we go.
I know, that's right.
Here
And
we go
because-
again.
And they assume, once again, Jazz, they assume
So-
that they have the ability to tell the whole world that everybody owns water, and yet we actually haven't even sorted out Māori
No,
rights.
you haven't sorted it out.
But
You
they
haven't
said
sorted
policy.
it out.
Oh no, I sorted it all right.
You have not
I'm really
sorted this
clear.
out, so
I'm
we are going
really
to sort
clear.
this out.
I'm really clear. But
You
for
have not
somebody
sorted
that's
this out.
arrogant, we're back to the
More-
same.
more
we're back,
kōrero.
we're back to the
Taiwa,
same
taiwa.
arrogance,
talk.
Jazz. We're back to the same arrogance
few
as we
more
had with
hui.
the foreshore
I
and
hear your
seabed.
point,
An arrogance. That we have an arrogance about the foreshore and seabed. We have an arrogance about the notion that we'll get rid of the Queen. Get rid of the Queen. She's not a part of the
Oh,
scenario
kata
anymore.
kotsi tātou
We have an
nānei.
arrogance about water. That's
Okay.
wrong. And
Thank
foreshore
you.
and seabed all over again.
Taiwa. Okay, Taiwa. Listen, Tamati, Te Ururoa does have a point there. Your leader came out and said everyone owns the water, which is not unlike what Helen Clark said about the foreshore seabed. So tell me, what reassurances can you give our whānau that Labour's not going to throw Māori under the bus?
I'll tell you what, in this election, 12 Māori are coming into Labour. We will occupy a third of that table, and we will make sure that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past.
Hey, Jazz.
We can't go back and repeat that. We can't go back and repeat that. That was a
Jazz.
dark time in our past. And
Jazz.
what you're seeing up here actually epitomizes why we need change, because there's one of us up here that is stuck in the past. The foreshore and seabed happened, and they keep going back to it. If we want change for the future of New Zealand, then we need to do exactly what any good whānau does. When we've got a whānau member that comes out of prison, we actually take them back into our whānau and back into our lives. And so
Okay,
what I'm
kata
saying
kotsi.
is that we need change. We can't
So-
keep going back to that dark
I just want to
place.
ask another question of both of you. Tamati, so do you agree that in saying that everybody owns the water, that's a breach of the Treaty of Waitangi in terms of tino rangatiratanga?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Pehea whakaaro mo tērā, Te
The
Ururoa.
water, and Māori are kaitiaki and always have been kaitiaki. Māori have a significant
What's
interest
he
in our
saying?
water, and this crew hasn't sorted it out.
Is that your personal view?
My personal view, yes.
Te Ururoa, one more right to reply on this topic, please.
Okay, so Tamati talks about some more members of parliament coming into under the Labour Party. Well, and being a big bloc, tērā, kōrero tērā, engari, tōna mutinga was a big bloc when the foreshore and Flavell went down, and we know what happened then. The Māori members
Going back
had to
again.
comply to what the
Going
Labour
back.
Party said.
Living in the
Had
past.
to comply.
Living
And this is
in the past.
Am I going to get a free run here? Or?
We need change
And
for
this is
the
what
future.
happens. Because if
That's what we need.
When we look back to the Treaty of Waitangi, that's looking back. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to defending Māori rights, you can count on only one party, Māori Party.
You haven't
'Cause
sorted it out, Minister.
that lot,
Kia ora,
You
kia
also
ora.
haven't
chuck you under the
repealed
bus
the
every
Act.
time.
You
Taiwa,
also
taiwa.
never repealed the foreshore and seabed legislation.
It happened.
Okay, we've
Remember
got
it.
two more
Touch it.
questions on this topic. While we're there, Te Ururoa, it's been 4 years since the Supreme Court in the state-owned enterprises case ruled that Māori have customary rights to fresh water. Why hasn't the Māori Party advanced this kaupapa?
Well,
Because the
actually,
National Party don't want to hear about it.
How tō whakautu?
actually, because unlike the Labour Party, whose arrogance is the government has their hand in it, we've
Why
said...
haven't the
we've
Māori
said-
Party advanced
we've
this
said, well, we
kaupapa?
have, it's on the agenda, but we've said
on
this
the
is a
agenda.
discussion, here's the difference, Shaz. This is a discussion between iwi and the Crown, not the Māori Party and the Crown, iwi and the Crown.
A different question for you, Tamati. Labour's policy on royalties associated with commercial freshwater activities confers a de facto ownership right. Why weren't Māori as treaty partners consulted when Labour developed this policy?
Yeah. Do you know what? We all had a hand in actually putting that together. What we wanted to send a message to New Zealand was that people
Everybody
that
owns
take
water.
our water aren't allowed to take it. If you're taking our water and you're bottling it up and you're sending it overseas, we need to send them a really clear message that actually that's not okay. And we know sure as hell that it's happening right here in your own backyard here in Whakatane.
So you're saying that that policy, that's what that says? That's sending a clear message?
I'm saying it's sending a clear message to those people that are taking that water and profiting off it commercially. We're sending a message to them to say, you will pay for your water that you're sending offshore, and that and we've even put a figure on that as well. And we said 1 to 2 cents per 1,000 litres. That's what we've said. We've also said that we need to get around the table and fix this up once we're in government.
Okay.
So what we have then is the assumption that the Labour Party can make decisions about water without first sorting the issue of ownership. And that is arrogance at its very heart. It is arrogant to believe you own the water and can set conditions like a royalty.
The only reason
Okay,
that
one
we're in
more
that
round of
position
applause.
is because you haven't sorted
and then
it
all of a
out.
sudden, come back to
Tamati,
Māori
what's your
and
response
say,
to
here's
that?
your 2 cents worth.
So what's your response to that, Tamati?
I'm saying the only reason that we've been pushed into this situation is because you haven't sorted it out.
I know, it's not ours.
You've created
It's for
more
iwi.
hui, had more hui,
It's for
te
iwi.
mana o te wai, more kōrero. Well, you haven't sorted it out though.
That's right, because it's an iwi discussion. An iwi, Māori to
9
Crown.
years later,
It's
you
certainly a
haven't sorted
discussion
it
we're
out.
having right now. Ka pai, kia ora kōrua.
The rights of Ngāti Manawa, the rights of Ngāti Awa are for Ngāti Awa to discuss, not for the Māori Party.
Kia ora,
Oi.
kia ora
That's why
kōrua.
you should vote for Labour.
Because Labour will take away your rights like they did on the foreshore and seabed.
Rukahu. Rukahu.
Kia ora, kia tau, ne? Tērā pēr me paku whakatā mo te rua miniti.
no, we're good, Jazz.
Me te
Keep going,
maharano,
keep going,
me te
Jazz.
maharano, kia kawe takahi te mana tētahi atu. Hoi anō, he kaha o ki ngā kōrero a te pōnei mai i te tokorua nei, no reira kia ora. Now, while we're on that topic of hard policies, let's look at te ture whenua, shall we?
Let's go there.
So, one of the main Māori economic platforms led by the Māori Party has been te ture whenua reforms. Tamati, Labour has led the opposition to te ture whenua. What are your main concerns?
No, I dispute that. First of all, I dispute 2 things you've just said. One, it wasn't led by the Māori Party. It was led by Chris Finlayson from the National Party. He was the one that drafted up the bill. He handed it over to the Māori Party to give it the brown tick. That's my first correction. The second thing that I'd like to correct you on is that this has not been Labour that has pushed this. This has been the Māori Women's Welfare League, the Human Rights Commission, the judges at the Māori Land Court, various Māori trusts and organisations around who have opposed this. We are simply being the māngai for all of those organisations.
Okay, so what are your main concerns about this piece of legislation?
I have many concerns. My
What's
first
one?
being the fact that it
Just
was
the main
actually
ones.
drafted by Chris Finlayson from the National Party, and it reeks of the Māori Affairs of the Ture Whenua Amendment Act that went on some years ago that they also tried to push through but were unsuccessful with. That's my first concern. My second concern is that the process was shoddy. The Minister himself will tell you that 3,000 people went to 170 hui. That works out on average to be about 17 people per hui. Were they all landowners as well? Who knows? But those are the statistics that are being thrown around. So I have doubts about the process that was followed as well. I also believe that it was an incredibly rushed process, and the advice from the Māori Land Court judges was that it was based on fundamental assertions or fundamental assertions that actually Māori land wasn't being developed at the moment. And through the Māori Land Court, we know sure as hell that it is.
So, Te Ururoa, we know that you had the opportunity, National offered you the opportunity to pass this bill through urgency and you didn't. Some would argue that you're trying to address
We put
those
the
issues
pressure
of
on.
process that Tamati's just pointed out. Kia hoto whakautu?
No, the process was set. It happens to be in the select committee process, going through debating every clause. But here's the catch. Just 3 nights ago, when asked what would Tamati do, how did he feel about the bill, he said, that's not bad. And the second part he said was, what would you do? And you'll listen to it tonight on TV, because he says, we'd tweak it. He said, we'll tweak it, which implies, as opposed to,
He's
we'll get
misconstruing
rid
my
of
words.
it. Well, as opposed to, we'll get rid of it.
Your
So what we
repeals-
know is that
Okay.
actually the Labour Party is all bluff and blow about the Ture Whenua Māori. And I'll tell you why, Jazz, because I said I don't talk about those issues, he's already told them. Here's the 3 things about the Ture Whenua. Number 1, that we have put in place a regime that says te Ture Whenua, te Whenua Māori, kia kau e tukuna ki tangata ke, tuatai. Tuarua, kia whai atu te kaupapa te mana moho take. Waihoake, ma te tangata nono te whenua e whakatau i ngā take. Tuatoru, whakawhanake, kia ahei te iwi Māori ki te whakawhanake i te whenua, mena koina tana hia. 3 pose. And at this point in time, I've addressed every one of the select committee processes, every one of the recommendations, all the recommendations given in those submissions. That is in front of the Parliament at the moment, and Labour has got little, if any, rejections of those issues.
Kia ora. Tamati, you've expressed that there's some problems around the thresholds. Kōrero mai.
Yeah. There are problems around the thresholds. If you're a landowner in a block with 500 landowners, then actually if you call a hui, all you need is 20% of those people to show up, so that's 100. Of those 100, all you need is a majority, so that's 51. If you don't get that majority, then you can actually have another vote, and all you need is 26 owners in that land block to be able to make decisions on behalf of those 500 people there. And I'll tell you who'll be at the front of that line, the really onto it cuzzy bros that we've got who are pretty savvy about the system. And we'll go and look after
So
themselves.
Tamati.
And the rest of our whānau won't be taken care of. That is my fear. That's my genuine fear, Jasmine.
What thresholds would you be happy with?
What thresholds would I be happy with? Hey, that's not for me to
Is this something
decide.
you've discussed?
No. I'm not an expert
So you're
in
not
Māori
happy with
land law.
those
I'm not
thresholds?
an
Which
expert in
ones?
Māori land law. I'm not going to be drawn into that. I'm not an expert on that. What we want to do is go back to the recommendations of the Waitangi Tribunal and tweak things in the 93 Ture Whenua Act that needs to be tweaked. Te Ururoa's one is off to the shredder, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, right. Jazz, you listen tonight on TV,
So hang
and
on,
they'll
hang
tell
on.
you that they just want to
You're
tweak
playing
it.
with my
Well,
words.
let's just
You're
talk
playing with
about
my
it.
words.
Let's
So
just
you're
talk about.
saying you will tweak it?
Yeah.
Will you
Here's the thing.
We'll
accept
tweak the
the fact that he
93
said that?
Yeah, I got that. So here's it. You asked Tamati about thresholds. The thresholds he's talking about are no different to the current law. They are the current law. And so if you criticise those thresholds now, you criticise the current law, therefore the
You don't get a
contention that it's
second chance.
okay is rubbish. So here's
don't
what
get a
we have
second
done,
chance.
Jazz. Here's what we have
That's
done,
not
Jazz.
right.
So at the moment, we have adapted the current legislation, and what we've added to it as well is that if, in terms of securing Māori land so it cannot be sold, iwi trusts otherwise can lift the threshold to 100% if that's what they wish, which will guarantee no land can ever be sold. Now, what's wrong with that? Where is the issue around thresholds if they're no different from the current legislation? Doesn't make sense.
So I know we've talked a lot about the process of the bill, but what Tamati here is saying, you know, if you had the opportunity to put it through urgency, if the bill was so damn good, why didn't you do it then?
Because it's an election loser.
No.
Yes.
Because I knew.
Why
The most
didn't you
amount of
allow it to go through urgency if you were happy with it?
I was very happy with it, but I wanted to ensure that I followed the same process I started with. Transparency amongst our people, not to play games with them, not to play games with our people, not to play games with our land. What I said was I would be transparent and put in everything, make sure that we follow the process. So here's the question, Will, this is going to be the big question, is will Labour turn back issues about inequity and rating of Māori land? Will they turn back issues to do with public works that have been sorted out? Will they turn back issues with respect to rates on Ururoa? Will they turn back issues on public roads? That's the question.
Okay, one right of reply. Tamati, what's your response to that?
Yeah, basically, voters have got a decision to make. Either you want this and you want the national government, or you want Labour and it's gone. National or Labour? Because under Labour, it's gone.
So what we know is that if you want to...
Kua matu tērā kaupapa, kua matu tērā kaupapa. Kei te haere tonu tātou. Te reo Māori. Kia ora koutou, ko te wiki o te reo Māori tēnei. Ki te rōpū reipa, he aha tō tū, e pāna ki te kaupapa kia whakamanahia te reo āture, I roto i ngā kura. Puta noa I te motu, he aha tō tū.
Can I throw in first of all that 1 in 5 of our people speak te reo Māori, 4 in 5 don't. So we've got to put in a tight plan around how we're going to get te reo Māori into schools. We're going to be releasing our te reo Māori plan this week, so I encourage everybody to look out for that one.
Will you make it compulsory? Will Labour make it compulsory in schools?
Do you know what? Personally, if you ask me personally, yes. Yes.
Does your party agree?
But let's think about it, because, yeah, that's the next question. How are you going to do that? So we have to address that, because it's easy for the smaller parties to say, let's make it compulsory. Yeah, it's Labour. It's Labour that has to figure out how we do that. So we've been... So what we're doing is we're working out our strategies. One of them is obviously removing barriers from tertiary education so that we can get more reo Māori teachers, because there is no point in making something compulsory when you've got some person standing up the front of the room that calls their little Māori kid Tamati. And that's what I got from my teachers that didn't know how to speak Māori. They called me Tamati. And all of the Māori words that they put out there, they butchered to death. And so what I want to make sure of is that when our reo Māori teachers go into their classrooms, we've got enough supply, we've got enough of them to be able to carry out the job. That's the most important thing.
Kia ora Tamati. Te Ururoa, kua ki koutou o te pāti Māori ka whakamanahia te reo. Engari ko te pātaike, hea te take kāre anō koutou ke whakamanahia āture.
He kaupapa tērā kei te āta wānanga hia. Kei te āhua tautoko ake ko tā Tamati e kōrero nei. Ki te kimi haere I ētahi kaiako ki te whakakiki ngā whāwhārua. Me whakapakari ake I te kōhanga reo. Kura kaupapa Māori, kura aiwi. I te mea ko rātau e rongo nei te ngau o te kore moni. Ka mutu e hari te mea kei te tipu kaha nei tērā wāhanga o tō tātou reo. E kore au e tohe I Wānganui. E kore a hau e tohe ki ai te mea ko te tikanga ia ka whakapakari ake ko te āhuatanga o tō tātou reo. So I'm not going to debate that one. I'll just say that I agree that we need more speakers. I accept that we need to have it as a core subject. The best we've done thus far is to ensure that in law, by passing Te Pire mo te reo Māori under our administration as a piece of legislation that has been introduced in Māori and provides a place, again, for iwi to develop their own dreams and aspirations and plans in their own way. That is a part of our setting the future, along with that is the Crown with iwi sitting together at te runanga reo ki reira whakarite ai te rautaki mo tō tātou reo.
Kia ora kōrua. Kei te titurau ki te karaka kei te āhua pau te wā I a tātou. We've got one more question, and because we're kind of on time, what we'll do is open it up to the floor for a few questions, maybe about 10 minutes. So just before we do that though, we'll have one more question and 3 minutes. Do you think that's too long, whānau, for wrap-up statements? Tore Benenti? So the last question. is politics to Māori is much more than just policies and programs there. Among other things, it's about te tiriti, it's about tino rangatiratanga. What will each of you do to further advance the constitutional interests of Māori? Tamati.
Oh, why you got to start with me on this one?
You want me to go?
Okay, the Treaty of Waitangi is firmly placed at the front of the Labour Party constitution. It's something that we believe in, and we will continue to nurture it, to make sure that Māori, when they go to settle with the government, that they're taken care of in that process. And as far as tino rangatiratanga, well, that comes down to the people that are sitting around the table. And I can tell you, as I've said 3 times tonight, 12 Māori coming into Labour, we will make sure that we work together for the benefit of Māori.
Te Ururoa.
Tuatai i ngā ono taupea ko hipake, nā rungi te hononga ki te nāhinara I whakatūria mai ai tēnei kaupapa ki te ahara wānanga I tēnei take. So we brought in, as a part of our accord with the National Party, to have that debate. That debate had some findings, was provided a report and set and provided a report for consideration. It hasn't moved too much from there. That's accepted, but on the other side of the coin, the iwi have actually done their own process as well. And part of that is coming together, which is part of the discussion that we have under the discussion about UNDRIP, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which is at a very high level to have that debate, again, a kaupapa that we advance. So, Te Tiriti o Waitangi is a part of our Māori Party constitution. It is a part of how we move and try to work the relationship with the government of the day, and is at the forefront of everything that we do as a party.
Can I answer that?
Kia ora kōrua.
Right now, the national government is standing on the mana of Tauranga Moana. Right now, the National Party have sent a message to Tauranga Moana iwi that if they don't settle, if they don't do a deal with Hauraki over their overlapping claims, then actually the national government are going to make a decision for them. That was the message that Te Ururoa sent to Tauranga Moana iwi just recently, and so I find it very rich that he's standing here backing the National Party and some initiatives that they've put through, when actually it's the National Party that are taking away the tino rangatiratanga of Tauranga Moana right this second.
I'll give you a right of reply on that, Te Ururoa.
Yeah, well, he needs to get his facts right. That's the first point. The second thing is actually the approach that's been taken is a Treaty of Waitangi approach, which is firstly to allow iwi to have their discussion themselves. That's the first point. To allow Hauraki and Tauranga to have that discussion themselves to sort those issues out. And in fact, we are at this point in time, right here and now, moving towards having that ongoing discussion that allows them to sort those tikanga-based issues out in a tikanga-based approach.
Can I ask, will the Hauraki claim be settled before the election, Minister?
I don't know.
Do you not know?
I don't know.
Or you don't want to share that?
So we haven't got a date, just like some people have been promoting. So if somebody's far better aware of a date that they've set, then share it, because you must be well ahead of everybody else.
Kia ora,
I hope you're telling the
kōrua.
truth.
Hey, we're having a kai and a kōrero after this, so feel free to continue the whawhai. Tēnā roa te kōrua. Hey, we are running out of time. What I want to do is throw it now to the floor. Anyone got any questions? Whai over here's got the microphone. We've got time probably for about 2 or 3. And just while we're...
Should we take them from people that aren't wearing Māori Party shirts or Labour Party shirts? How about that?
He pātai taku, Jasmine.
Kia ora, we've got a question over here. Whai.
Voluntary, and we've been worrying about the whānau out there. Yes, there are homes out there that can't be done like overnight, but then we've got our elderly that are screaming and crying because they can't get into their homes or they can't have their cabins there. So my question on that one question is, what happens to them? whakatane is going to start moving away from them. We've got livable homes today with the messages that they are going to be moving away. Well, Ngāwe and Wātene Māori of Kawerau are still there to support, to help, to get our volunteers together and push and push and push until the very end, till everybody's actually in their homes. So what I'm saying is we're left on our own to try and get all this done with the pātai, plus with the navigation of Te Tori o Ngāti Awa. The second question, my second thing is also that when it comes to the health and safety on the forestry. Now, I've been a forestry girl for 10 years in the forestry, true fella, hardcore, loved it. The safety issues back then in the 80s were more safer than they are today. Everything's all half-pie done. You still got the odd Pākehā, Māori, whoever they are. It doesn't matter about what skin they are or colour they are. It's about, are they safe? My answer, no, because the safety, health and safety isn't done properly today like it was back then.
Kia ora whaia.
So what happens
Kia ora
to
whaia.
that?
So we've got two issues there. I think the first one is around the housing, and it may have been addressed tonight with the, I think both parties have agreed that you would support a public inquiry into the forestry sector.
Yeah,
Kei te tika tēnā?
that's right.
Yeah, and just on the first point, if we could briefly address that one, please. Te Ururoa.
So was it about the wardens or just around the issues about the housing, for? Right. Yep. Yep.
Mā te iwi ke e kawe i tīna taumaha tonu ni.
So in terms of dealing with, what we ended up with is trying to deal with families that immediately lost their house on that day and were moved out to Rautahi, moved out to Kokohino and so on. And so the first objective was to try and deal with that, and that's why the attempt was to get to the Whakatane motor camp and then move towards getting those cabins and across, then on to Kokohino and getting some land to be able to put some houses on there. So that's the short-term effort. The second part is that there has been money available to give support to those families. Now, I'm taking that you're laughing at that, but that money is definitely available. I've seen it.
You're saying it's not happening.
So I take that, but that hasn't come across my table. What I understood to be the case that money was available both to businesses, to farmers, to individuals to give support, and that support has been available. If it hasn't, then you need to let me know about that.
Ka pai, no reira kei te whai atu te Ururoa I tērā kaupapa ni. Kia ora. Mataatua over here, pātai. And then I think we'll have one more after that.
Tuatahi.
Oh, aroha mai, we've got two. Aroha mai, Mataatua. I think we were first up here in the corner, and then we'll have you.
Tuatahi, tēnā kōrua.
Okay.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe Jazz, tēnā koe te rangatira, te Ururoa, tēnā koe te Tamati. Nā mihi kia kōrua. Personally, I think both of you should be in Parliament together. From what I hear, it can be very real and can happen. However, I've got a couple of questions here, and it's called the Veterans Act. Recently, at the Ururoa, there is a review party going around the country giving us one day to talk about reviewing the Veterans Act. The Veterans Act 2014 did not give us an opportunity to talk about our Māori issues. Last year, 76 Māori veterans, wives and children went to the Waitangi Tribunal to air their grievances and their mamae. The result was they agreed to set up the review party. The problem is the review party going around is only giving us one day to give us an opportunity to review the whole act. It's 4 pages of this review, and half of them we don't even bloody well understand the vocabulary. It's written by a lawyer and nothing for us Māoris or soldiers. So to that extent, we've got until Friday to put our submissions through. This is the only chance we've got
as veterans to change the act. So I'm asking you to, please, can you stand up and advocate for us? One, in that act, it doesn't even recognize the Treaty of Waitangi. Could you please check that out? Two, they do not even have cultural advisors in Veterans Affairs. They have cultural advisors for hospital boards, for a whole of other your government agencies. Why haven't they got one for Veterans Affairs, and has a huge impact on our veterans, their wives, their children, and my moko Puna? Secondly, Tamati, in World War I, when our soldiers came back, there was no hospitalization, no treatment for them. In World War II, the 28 Māori Battalion, I was a kid and I witnessed some of the treatment that they were exposed to when they came back. There was no proper hospitalization. It was left up to whānau to look after their loved ones, their wounded ones. Te Ururoa, you know I've always been advocating for veterans. We have just recently formed a group called the Parearo Atu Matauina. Parearo means the wounded physically and in the mind. Koe rā tō mātou rōpui ai neina. So I'm asking both of you, please, if you could work together and let's get this Veterans Act sorted out for the benefit of our current service people and their wives and their children.
Tēnā rawa tuku e Matua.
My sister here.
Tamati.
Did you say that they were coming along on Friday? Is that what I heard you say?
Missions have to be in by this Friday.
The submissions have to be in by the end of Friday. Okay. I'm happy to, I'm on the campaign trail. I got some time to come and sit with you to make sure that we can put your submission into the best words possible. I'm a pretty good translator as well when it comes to those official documents, so I'm happy to work with you alongside if that's what you would like from me. I'm offering myself.
Kia ora Tamati, te Ururoa.
Roa, ka tahi noa ka rongo i tērā koro kai te ohorere ki tāu I whakatakoto mai ai. He pai ki au ki te kōkiri tērā take, kai ako e te tikanga mō tērā. Engari kai te rongo ake te mamai o tērā whakaaro. So I understand what you're saying. I hear, as you say, ko e tērā e hoi te waka mō ngā veterans. So I understand, happy to take it up. Ka tahi noa ka rongo. I've only just heard about that issue.
Thank you very much. The last question I have, Jez, I'm sorry, is kaumātua housing. I've heard talk about affordability housing. I've heard talk about poverty, and I have not heard one of you talk about kaumātua housing and improvement. There's a lot of kaumātuas here, like myself and a couple of others in Waiariki. We've had homes that was built by the Māori Affairs way back in the 1950s, and it is now gone past its use-by date. The windows and some of the rust, it needs a good maintenance. Te Ururoa, I went to your office last year asking for help. The Puna ora o Mataatua ran out of funds last year. I note you said you got 10 million in the budget, but it doesn't say kaumātua assistance. You know, while it's good to talk about our rangatahi and our mātuas, what about the kaumātuas?
Kia ora Matua. Pihenga kaumātua Tamati.
Yeah, kia ora. Thank you for that, Ehua. When it comes to housing, part of our housing build policy is that they're not all just going to be big, huge 4 or 5 bedroom houses. In fact, very few of them will be. They're actually going to be smaller places as well, some smaller units, more suitable for kaumātua. So in that big 100,000 houses that we've got of Kiwi Build, I know that there's going to be some in there that are suitable for kaumātua, and I look forward to actually making a commitment to you to finding out that number and to actually seeing if we can get some here. Because I can tell you this for a fact, over in Rotorua right now, they're talking about selling off our kaumātua houses. The council currently own them, and they're talking about selling them off. And so that pains me, because I think about that often.
Te Ururoa.
Kai te rongo anoho ki te aue mō ngā pakeke. Me pēnei te ki, kai wānga nui, kai te takiwā nei, e tahi iwi ko ki atu, ko tiki nātu te rākau, ko whakarite rite I e tahi whare ki te tiaki ngā pakeke. Kai tauranga mua nei e tahi. Kai te morai o whetu te rangi, I tahu whakatiki, kai Mataatua, kai reira tonu te tauira o te papakāinga housing ne, e whai wāhi ai ngā pakeke ki te noho I te taho o ngā whānau. So kai reira tonu ngā tauira, e harita mea kai roto I te puni kōkiri, te katoa te pūtea, kai tari kē, engari kai reira tonu te tahi tīmatanga kōrero.
So will you both follow this up for koro?
Yeah, kei te pai.
Yeah. House.
Ko e harei te mea, kai te rongo aki tērā, kai te...
Mataatua, are you talking about the repairing homes programs? Yeah.
Oh, repairing homes, well, kei reira tonu tētahi pūtei te puni kōkiri tēnei wā tonu nei, mo repairs and maintenance, he tauira kei te waimana, he tauira kei rua toki, kei tauira kei poroporo anō hoki, so me hoki rā anō ki te tari o te puni kōkiri, kei reira tonu tētahi āwhina.
I really think you brought up an excellent question there, Mataatua, and we might have to flesh that out a bit more in the foyer. But I think the feedback there is that some of the help that's been purported is not actually getting to where it needs to get in our local communities. So we will follow that up, Mataatua, thank you. Tēnā rawa tu koe mo tō pātai. We've got room for one more. We're going to have to try and wrap it up.
Kia ora kai nā pātai he mana. Hoi no kia ora te whare. Kia ora Tamati kōrero ko te Ururoa. Tuatahi kai te mihi au kia te Ururoa. Nā nei whakatutuki te whakapahātana o tō mātou tipuna a te rua. I maunga pohatu I tēnei rāhoro I mahuakane. Tēnā rawa atu koe. Hoi no waku pātai ko huri akau te reo pihi ke te kia mārama katoa I tātou. I want to know how you fellas intend to tighten up on immigration. Because I can see the day is coming where I'll be walking down the main street of Whakatane and I won't even see a tanata whenua. And the other question is, how do you intend to stop the on-sale of Aotearoa to outsiders? Because we won't have any whenua left for our tamariki in time. Because I do believe in what Steve Hansen says is we should never lose our biscuit.
Kia ora, Mataatua.
Wera nā pātai.
Kia ora, tēnā rawa tu koe. Tamati, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I said it earlier, we're going to ban those foreign speculators that are buying up all of our houses. We're going to make sure that only if you're a New Zealand citizen can you buy our houses. If you're not a New Zealand citizen, then you don't have that right. And currently, the national government's been National Māori Party government have been pretty lapsed on that. So that's one thing that we're going to do, and we're going to do it in the first 100 days. About immigration, we've made a commitment to reducing the numbers of people coming into New Zealand. What we've said is that you wouldn't invite whānau all around to your house if you don't have the room. And right now, New Zealand's a little bit full. We don't have the houses to be able to keep opening up our doors at the rates that we are. So we've committed to reducing it, and we've set a target too.
Kia ora. Te Ururoa, what's your response?
Ko kōrero te tangata nei mo te whare, ko tā mātou ko te kiatu, ko te whenua te kaupapa nui. So ko tā mātou ko te kiatu, ko rāhuitia te whenua Aotearoa ki tangata o tā wāhi. So our policy is to say houses is one thing, actually it's the land that people are worried about. And so in that regard, our policy is that we will, that New Zealand land will not be available for sale to foreign interests, but they can lease it. They can lease it if and where appropriate. So that's our policy in terms of, so that was one. The other part, sorry Jez, was... Immigration. So, ko tā mātou ko te kiatu I ētahi wā, te tikanga ia, me hare mai ētahi, kaua ko te katoa, kaua ko te marea, te wenerau, me hare mai ki konei, engari, me naka rarurau, nā mahi I konei, ētahi take I konei, me whakamāma, me whakataumaha rānei I ngā taumata o te rāhuatanga. So, what we're saying is that immigration is okay, immigration is okay for a need on balance. And that's going to come up and it's going to go down over years. And we have to adjust that according to our needs and get specific people here to be able, but the main thing is that we must look after them and set in place rules about how they live on our land. That's important.
Ka pai, tēnā kōrua. Tēnā rawa tu koe Mataatua mo tērā pātai. Nō reira te iwi kua hipa te wā ki a tātou, I tēnei wā. I just want to, I think we'll do the 2-3 minute closing statements after just a few words, because I think it might get a bit ruckus and then I won't be able to say anything. First of all, thank you, Uncle. Nā wanoi whakawātea tēnei pō. Forgot to say that. Koutou katoa nā kaumātua kua tai mai nei. Me te mea hoki ai he tamaiti tonu tētahi o ēnei, engari me maumahara tātou ki te kōrero, ka pū te ruha, ka hao te rangatahi te. Hoi anō, e mōhio whānu e te ana tō tātou matua I konei, nō reira he whawhai, he pakanga nui, ne. No mātou ki te Waimari, no tātou katoa te Waimari, kei konei te tokorua nei mo te Waiariki. Koe rā te mea nui. Tuarua, out in the foyer, folks, if you're not enrolled, go and enroll. If you're not on the Māori roll, you can, I think it's next year that comes up. You can't change that every year. That's my personal view, and it's my disclaimer that you should get on the Māori roll. That's not sponsored by anyone. E tika ana hoki kia mihi kia te puna ora o Mataatua, nā rātou tēnei pō I whakahaere. And a big mihi to all the board members that have come here tonight. It's also, I didn't mention at the beginning, it was being streamed live on Te Puna Ora o Matatua's Facebook page. So if you want to go back and watch, feel free to. It'll be there. So yeah, let's wrap it up, whānau. Hey, you guys have been awesome. Labour Party, Māori Party, aha kua kōwai. Kua tai mai tātou katoa te Māori I te pō nei, ki te pōti ne. Koe rā te kaupapa nui. Kau e wareware ki te tuku tō pōti, tō mana pōti ki a rere ne, hei te rua te kau mātoru o tēnei marama. So it's not long, you know, vote people, that's the message. So we're going to have 3 minutes, please, timekeeper. And we will start with Te Ururoa. 3 minutes, please, and yeah, kia ora tātou.
Tuatai Jazz, kanui te mihi ki a koe. Noho hei tako wainga mō tēnei o ngā kaupapa. So thank you. Good to see you back in your broadcasting role, and thanks to Chris and Te Puna Ora o Mataatua. Thank you very much for setting up this forum. It's been important. And thank you all for coming, no matter which party we come from. This is the last debate that Tamati and I will have. I've appreciated the fact that we've had a good tohe, put some things on the table, but at least at the end of the day we always shake hands and get on. I've been a member of Parliament for Waiariki for 12 years. I'm seeking a 3rd term. I do that because I actually love teaching and I love being with young people. But the calling to Parliament was based on the fact that in our history, and we've talked about it tonight, the foreshore and seabed was the gelling issue that put me back into the political arena. It was there because I absolutely believed that the time was right for us to determine our own futures, our own destiny under our own political banner. I say that because I felt at the time, and my personal view, was that Māori members in the Labour Party at that time had to be compromised hugely to make a stand on the part in front of their people. And that was sad because most of them since that time have actually said they got it wrong, except for 1 or 2. So I've never changed the view of a determination that our people need our own political vehicle. Why? Because throughout our history, since way back when, since the signing of Declaration of Independence, Treaty of Waitangi, chopping down flagpoles, parihaka, taking up the gun to war, to every possible way that we can, setting up our own movements, that we've tried to find our political space in this country. And about 14 years ago, yes, we have found it, and it's called the Māori Party. The reason is because we can shape our own destiny. Now, in the last couple of years or so, we've always been that smaller party, and if we just believed in ourselves that we can have this political vehicle to utilise it, we could actually be in government every time. Why? Because the MMP environment demands that bigger parties must make relationships with others. So here's the sad part, I suppose, in some senses, but it could be a good thing. Tonight, while we'll be debating, it could be in another 3 to 4 to 5 weeks' time that we might be sitting in the same place together, actually, and looking after our interests. That's the strange thing about it, that tonight, while we've had an argument and have differing views, we might be in the same place in Parliament debating these issues, perhaps together, but then again, maybe not. Who knows? But if we actually strategise right, strategise properly, and I say to our people, when it comes to the crunch, who's going to have your backside? And I'll tell you this, it will be the Māori Party every time. Why? Because we have a proven record to tell that, a proven record. And in the last month, I can say with great happiness and joy, if you ever wanted to know about what the Māori Party has done with 2 people, I can roll it off. Number 1, just 2 days ago, was at the time.
Aroha mai, ko mutu te wā.
Pāni Porua Kenana, I got that.
Ko mutu te wā.
No reira.
Kia ora te Ururoa. Your turn, Tamati.
Firstly, also thank you to Te Puna Ururoa Mataatua. Thank you to everybody that showed up here tonight to come and listen. This is an exciting election, actually. It's more exciting than I'd say any of the previous ones, but this time we've actually got a choice and we can make real change, real change. I'm not going to get bogged down into some of the history of the Labour Party. Yeah, there were some dark moments back there and we don't want to remember that, we don't want to relive that. But what we also want to do is move boldly into the future, and it's Labour that have actually committed to changing the government. Up here you can talk about how much you both like us, but actually one of us up here is committed to changing the government and the other one will take the best offer on the table and possibly sit with the National Party too. So you've got a decision to make on that front. No, that's not even a lie. You've got a decision to make on that front. If you want change, then you need to vote for Labour. If you want things to stay the same, if you want our people to still be at the bottom of the heap in terms of all of the bad statistics for Māori, then you need to keep voting for the Māori Party, who are likely, because it's going to be close, to sit with the National Party again. So it's a very clear choice to me. Labour were the ones that we put our faith in way back in the day, since forever ago. We were the ones that built the state houses. We were the ones that housed our whānau all around the country. We were the ones that took away the cost in early childhood education. We were the ones that took away the cost in secondary education, and we're going to take away the cost of tertiary education as well, because it's the right thing to do. There's a generational change that's happening in politics at the moment, and I'm part of it, and I'm excited to be a part of it. The Minister's looking for another 3 years on top of his current 12 that he's had. If you can't make the kind of change that our people are desperate for in 12 years, I don't know what difference another 3 years is going to make. Vote Labour, and I'd appreciate your vote. Ka pai.
Kia ora, nō reira e te iwi kua hipata wā ki a tātou. Thank you all, you've been wonderful. We're going to just go into the foyer and have a quick nibble and a kōrero. Kia ora.
Ka pai, Jess.